Night. The round moon was hanging high, and stars filled the sky. However, within the river of stars, there were 9 colored lights lingering amongst them, and they were especially dazzling. Abnormal signs appear in the sky, which means a divine body will descend. On the summit of the imperial city in the 9 provinces, an old man in golden clothes stood with his hand behind his back, and he was looking up into the night sky. Behind him were tens of thousands of imperial city experts. All of them were half-kneeled as if waiting for some command. Biziz, suddenly the lights condensed and formed into 9 colored lightning. It came striking down from above the river of stars and the heavens. At that instant, the black night became a white day. Even before the strike of the lightning, the ground was already rumbling and fiercely trembling. But that 9 colored lightning, the moment it collided with the land, it did not do any terrifying damage. Rather, it completely disappeared. At the same time, the world was enveloped by the night once again. The originally bright night sky darkened quite a bit, as if some important essence was removed, and the former serene days were restored. The old man's eyes were abnormally bright, and his excited body was even trembling. He pointed towards the location in which the lightning had landed. Within the borders of the ASURA province, bring all the infants that were born tonight back to the imperial city. Yes, sir. The thunder-like response resonated past the horizon, and tens of thousands imperial city experts headed towards the ASURA province. They swore to look for the divine body and give it to the imperial court for use. Time passed. 5 years elapsed with a blink, and although people still remembered the frightening scene that year, no one knew the actions of the imperial court within the borders of the ASURA province of the 9 provinces. Amongst the countless of schools, the Azure Dragon School was one of them. Today, once again, it was the annual recruitment of disciples for the Azure Dragon School. There were oceans of people outside of the school. Every time, the busiest people were the outer court disciples. All the responsibilities of the admittance for the school were all pushed onto their heads. Outer court disciples. They were the ones that did the hard and thankless tasks. Not only were their position lowest in the school, they were even looked down upon by outsiders. The reason was very simple. If they were an outer court disciple, it meant that their aptitude was horrible, and in their entire life, it would be very hard for them to have any big achievements, so naturally they were despised upon. Oi, what's with this attitude? Do you know who I am? A lady who wore gorgeous clothes had a boy with her as she pointed and loudly yelled at a young man. I am very sorry. It is already late now, and the school will close soon. Please come back tomorrow. The young man's delicate face was still young and tender, but between his eyebrows he had a bit of heroic spirit. He was called Chu Feng. He was 15 this year, and he was one of the tens of thousands of outer court disciples in the Azure Dragon School. Although he was an outer court disciple, Chu Feng was different from all the others. He did not feel inferior to others, and he did not degrade himself. He did not feel afraid or scared while treating others, and he was very calm. Come back tomorrow. You think I'm an idiot? These are the mountains. Where are you even going to let us sleep? You must arrange a place of residence for me, or else I'll go find your elders for reasoning. The lady did not listen and did not care. She even grabbed onto Chu Feng's clothes. Chu Feng, have you met with trouble? But just at that time, a sweet voice could be heard. Looking at that direction, a young female who wore purple was walking over. Although there was a faint smile on her mouth, her eyes were fierce and they tightly stared at the lady. As she saw the young female, the color of the lady's face instantly changed, and a strong expression of fear gushed out. It was not because of anything else. It was just because the young female was wearing the purple robe, and that was a mark of the inner disciples. The lady hiddenly cursed. She originally thought she could use her status to make things difficult for the young man in front of her. Who would have thought that the unremarkable young man in front of her had the support of an inner disciple? The inner disciples were an existence that she couldn't offend. It's nothing. I was just inquiring some things from him," the lady explained while smiling. The young female glared at her and only said one word, "Scram." At that instant, the lady's body couldn't help but tremble, and her face was already ashen. But she did not hesitate at all. She pulled the boy and quickly left, and under the panic she even tripped, which made her look very rough. Seeing that, Chu Feng helplessly shook his head and said politely to the young female next to him, "Thank you very much, Chu Yue." "No need to be so polite. We're family, right?" Chu Yue was a bit displeased. She was correct. They were indeed family. They came from the same family, Chu. Chu Yue was Chu Feng's cousin, from Chu Feng's father's brother line, and she was only 1 year older than Chu Feng. However, Chu Yue already passed the inner disciple exam 3 years ago and became an inner disciple. She was now in the 4th level of the spirit realm. "We need to follow the school rules," Chu Feng said with a brilliant smile. Looking at Chu Feng behaving like that, Chu Yue's heart ached. "Chu Feng, are you still not going to participate in this year's inner disciple exam? Or is it that you still haven't reached the 3rd level of the spirit realm?" Chu Feng did not respond, and a faint smile still hung on his face. No one knew what he meant. Seeing that, Chu Yue took off a bag from her waist and put it in Chu Feng's hands. "Refine it. Perhaps it'll help you break through the 3rd level." Chu Feng opened the bag and instantly strong spiritual energy was emitted from it. A bright, sparkling, transparent Saint Spirit grass that was the size of a finger laid within. "Chu Yue, this is too precious, I can't take it." Chu Feng hurriedly returned it back to Chu Yue. Saint Spirit grass. It was like a panacea for martial training, and it was extremely precious. It had endless usefulness for those within the spirit realm. To increase their training speed, the Chu family would supplement 1 Saint Spirit grass to the Chu family members every year. Chu Yue was also supplemented by the family, but she didn't use it and gave it to Chu Feng. It really moved Chu Feng, so he really couldn't accept it. "When I say I give it to you, you should take it. You are my little brother after all." Chu Yue was slightly irritated. "Oh? When were you so generous and even started to give Saint Spirit grasses to people? Look, I am your little brother as well, and coincidentally I will almost have a breakthrough into 4th level of the spirit realm. How about you give the Saint Spirit grass to me?" A young man around the age of Chu Feng walked over, and he was also wearing clothes of the inner court disciples. He was called Chu Zhen, and he was also from the Chu family. 5 years ago, he entered the Azure Dragon School at the same time as Chu Feng. However, he became an inner disciple 2 years ago. "Chu Zhen, you've already broke past the 3rd level of the spirit realm and successfully condensed spiritual energy. Even if you don't have this Saint Spirit grass, you can rank up quickly. But Chu Feng has not condensed spiritual energy yet, so this Saint Spirit grass is more important to him." Chu Yue forcibly put the Saint Spirit grass into Chu Feng's hands. "Yep, you are correct, but sadly he doesn't want it." Chu Zhen spread his hands open and sneered. "Who said that I didn't want it?" But then Chu Feng lightly smiled and unrestrainedly put the Saint Spirit grass in his pocket before saying, "Chu Yue, I will borrow this Saint Spirit grass. On a later date, I will return them back twofold." Okay." Seeing that Chu Feng accepted it, Chu Wei was already happy, so she just randomly responded and didn't care whether Chu Feng would return it back or not. "If you're taking it, then why return it? Giving you this Saint Spirit grass for you to use is such a waste." Chu Zhen's face had a really ugly look on it. Chu Feng just smiled and ignored him. He then said to Chu Yue, "Chu Yue, I will participate in this year's inner disciple exam." "Humph, you? If you can pass the inner disciple exam, I'll give this year's supplemented Saint Spirit grass to you." Chu Zhen looked at Chu Feng with contempt. "Is that true?" Chu Feng didn't really believe it. "Chu Yue will be the witness. But what if you can't pass it? Then the Saint Spirit grass I get this year will belong to you." Leaving that sentence behind, Chu Feng continued to throw himself into the work of outer court disciples. "Chu Zhen, we are family. Why do you always need to make things so hard for Chu Feng?"